Hi, welcome back to the Desmond Works channel, and apologies that it's taken nearly 2 weeks to get the next video out. There's a lot been going on in the real world, and I wanted to make sure that I could give some decent time to put in a video together. So I'm going to be covering off 3 things in this video. One, I'm going to be covering off how much the Ducati ST2 project has cost to date. There's 2 reasons why I'm going to cover that off. There's been generally 2 camps of people that have been watching the videos. One set of people that love the STs and want to know how much it costs to restore it to the sort of condition I've got it to. It's not a full concours restoration, as we know, but it's taking it to a pretty decent standard because I'm making it predominantly a road bike that I'm going to be touring with, and I want it back to a decent standard. And then there's the other camp of people that believe that you shouldn't waste money on a Ducati ST because there's better bikes in the range. I get that, but I always wanted an ST, and as a little bit of a Ducati nut, I wanted it in a condition that I knew it was perfect and safe to ride. So I've probably spent more than I should have to get it into a condition that I'm happy with. The second thing I'm going to be covering off onto today's video is what content have I got coming up in the next, let's say, year, so the next 12 months, because there's plenty to be getting on with. So I'm going to cover off what's coming up from a Ducati point of view, but I've also got some four-wheeled content coming up because I've finally got some tools I've been on the hunt for. And then the third thing is I just want to cover off where we are with the YouTube situation, because you'll notice I've turned on advertising lately. Okay then, so what we'll do first is we'll cover off the Ducati ST2 project, then I'll talk about future content, and then I'll talk about immediate changes that have been made to the channel. So I'll timestamp those so you can just skip to each piece if you want to. Okay, let's get into what this project's cost me then. Okay, so as you remember, I bought this bike right back at the start of the year, I think. Might have even been before that, I cannot remember. And it had been a crash damaged, lightly damaged, i.e. the owner had reversed into it in his garage and damaged the fairings and then left it outside. So if you can remember, and I'll post a card somewhere up there to go back to the first ever video in the series so you can remember the condition. I have taken this back to almost nearly new. You know, there are still some little imperfections on the bike. Corroded fork pinch bolts, which will get replaced soon. Some corrosion on the calipers. But you'll see from the general condition at the moment, I've taken everything back to either a nearly new standard or an acceptable standard. I still need to get a footrest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a rather long list of expenditure on the bike and tell you what it cost me to do. There's still bits to be done as well, so I still need to paint the bike. So the bike overall cost me £1,200 sterling to purchase. You might have a view on whether that works out to be value or not, but remember the bike came with a full Ducati luggage set, so side panniers and the correct Givi top box as well. So with judging how much they go for, I've got sort of about £400 or £500 luggage set with the bike. So £1,200 all in is not bad as I saw it. The only thing I had missing was one of the indicators at the rear, one of the indicators at the front, and I'll talk through what they cost when we get onto the cost parts. And I've got a cracked front right side panel. Other than that, everything was there. There's scratches on everything, and that's why I need to repaint it. But cosmetically, the bike was tired, and that's why I dove into the decision to repaint it. And then mechanically, it had been sat outside for a while, and if you remember, there was a quite loud knocking sound from the clutch area. I believe that to be that when we stripped the clutch apart, I believed it was that the rubbers bushes in the back of the clutch had perished stroke gone hard, because when I took the engine apart, whilst there was some play in the bearings, not enough to have created the noise that was there when the bike was running. So I think it was mainly the clutch reason. So let's talk through what we've done, and I've broken it down into two pieces for the total cost. When I talk about the total cost, I've got a whole list of what it's cost me to do the bike, but then I have also broken out another total as to what it would have cost to put the bike back on the road as it was. So if there's a camp of people that think I've probably spent too much on it, I'm also going to talk about what it would have cost just to put the bike back on the road. So let's get into it. So we had the £1,200 for the cost of the bike, which was the initial purchase. I've then bought a pack of well nuts for when we put the fairings back together. They cost me £14. The disc bolts for the rear discs and the front discs, I bought a spare pack because a few of them were damaged when I took the discs off. They were £11.99. The wavy discs, front and rear, were £194.99. The clutch plates for the new slipper clutch came in at £133.88. Then I had to put a new throttle cable on because the throttle cable was pinched at the top, and what it was meaning is when I was applying the throttle it just wasn't going back even with the spring tension. That was £16.99. I then serviced the bike, so there's a new filter in there at £11.85. Also put fresh oil in there, which was £32, and a brand new oil filter, which was £7.50. We fitted new sprockets, front and rear, and a new chain, but that was a pack that came at £80. I also then shimmed the engine, which was £28. New set of head bearings, which was £19. We did the belts, which was all new tensioner pulley bearings and the belts themselves, and that was again was a kit, and that was £133. I rebuilt the front suspension, which was £32.99. Then I got a second-hand indicator for the one that was missing at the rear, and a new front one. Oh, sorry, a second-hand front one, new to me, but second-hand front one. They were £7.50 and £29.99 respectively. I've bought a new left-hand mirror because it was missing. That was £49.99. And then I bought a factory manual, and that was only because I didn't have one for this bike, either electronically or in hard copy, so that was £14.99. We put in the antifreeze, as you saw in the last video, which was £15 for the concentrate. The fork oil for when I changed the bushes and the seals, which was £15. And then topping up the hydraulic fluid on the clutch, front brakes, rear brake. Oh, the rear brake's done, by the way. That was only £5. Hose clamps, so I needed a few of those, but I bought those in bulk, so it's £15. But I suppose if you were replacing only a couple, if you were restoring your bike, you're talking pence. You can buy them at somewhere between sort of 20 pence to £1 each, depending on the quality that you get. I've bought some that are similar to the OEM factory ones, so I had some good high quality Jubilee clips, but the last few are sort of like the serrated Honda stroke Ducati ones, and they were £14.20. I might have said that, so I might have repeated myself. I bought some brand new exhaust studs and nuts because they were seized solid, and they came in bulk again because I'll be doing more than just this bike. But the studs were £2.55 for a pack of 10, and the nuts I got, I think, a pack of 30 for £7.90. So you'd be talking, you know, 30 to 40 pence per stud, and the nuts would be 10 pence each, let's say. I bought a new tub, or sorry, a new pack of free bond, which was at £5. And then there was a plating kit, so you remember I replated the whole whole set of bolts that we had for the engine rather than sending it away. So I've got the whole cost of that kit, but obviously if you were doing it yourself, you may send that away, but that cost me £316.33. So that was 40 litres of distilled water, the transformer, the plating kit, and a load of buckets to put it into as well, and then the deox de-rusting chemical. We got a new set of grips, which were £12.50, and then we put the fuel couplings into the fuel line so that we could remove the tank easily for maintenance, and that was £49.50. Got a new braided clutch line, which was £29.99, and then braided rear brake hose and the twin hose set up for the front race, which was £89.99. I've got the reservoir clamp for the rear reservoir for the Öhlins set up when that comes back. That was £15.10 second hand. I had to get a new HT lead because I had a non-standard plug in the vertical cylinder which had a K&N solid connector on the top, or boot. So I've gone to the factory one, and that was a second-hand set at £17.50 for a pair. I then had to buy a whole breather box to get the hose that was damaged when I took it apart, and that was £19.96. And then the correct tool tray, which was missing on the bike when I bought it, which was £8. Around the other side, but you can't see it, is my lovely new slipper clutch, and that was £405, a Ducati slipper clutch, 6-post. I've then got aluminium tyre valves, which were £15.98. I've got the new Ducati anodised red timing cover, which was, I've lost myself again, £32.90 with postage. We've got brand new Avon tyres, which were £149.90. Then we've got new bearings in the rear and the front wheel, and they came in at £34.04. And I've got new cush bushes in the sprockets, which was a set for £49.99. You can buy those individually from the supplier that I got them of, but I don't know why you would replace them singly, unless you had one split and you were doing it on a budget, I suppose. But you could get them singly at £8 each, but it was 6 for £49.99. We've got the silicone hoses from AS3, which were £69.99. There's a new mechanical seal in the water pump at £19.99. Then I've got the clock trim that was missing from the bike, so that when that goes back together it will look factory. That was £20. Then a gasket set for the engine at £179.99. It's quite expensive because it's a really basic gasket set, but that was an official Ducati gasket set. Normally I would get a gasket set from Athena, so I don't know what the difference would be, but I was actually a bit unimpressed with it, because basically it's a base gasket and a load of seals. So I suppose it would be worth doing some work to identify the seals and get them separately, because I bet you could do it a lot cheaper. Then I've got various seals and bearings that I've replaced on the engine that were either from stock or from ordering them separately because I didn't have them in stock. I've just surmised that as £350, but that is every seal on the engine case and every single bearing inside the engine as well, so quite a bit, and includes the bearings for the swing arm, which would not be done on any of the 4-valve engines that I normally do. And then we had the powder coating, so 2 different suppliers, if you'll remember back to the videos, and I'll highlight that up as a card. But we had the frame, the stands, the engine cases themselves, the side casings, the wheels. So the first load of powder coating was £405, and the second load of powder coating was £240. I have not costed for the materials to correct the mistakes, so sandpaper, chemical stripper, etc. So it's not important. How much has it cost me so far? So the grand total to date is £4,621.38. you can make your assumption as to whether you think that's value or not. I have seen a restored Ducati ST2, not in red, locally, so it's only about 30 miles from me, and that's for sale for £4,750. I personally believe this is as good condition, perhaps better, better specified. I know what's been done to it as well, and I know it's been done from the crank up, so I think that it represents equal value to that bike. Do I think it represents value for an ST2? No, probably not, and I'm being honest there. But it represents value for me because I have a bike that is a known quantity for me, and I intend to ride it over Europe, so I'd rather be comfortable that everything was done and it was correct. I've still got more to spend, so I've still, because we're in lockdown at the moment in the UK, I still need to get my shock away to be refurbished. That's going to be about £80. I've got all the painting to do, which will be mainly a materials cost. Now I'm sharing that with a friend that I'm painting his fairings for him as well. So the booth is going to be £125. Then I've just got to sort out the materials. So let's say £200 for the paint. So there's another £325 there. I've got the seat to go on the bike, but I'm going to restaple it because the staples are all rusted, and then put the foam seal around it as well, so there'll be a small cost for that. And then I'm going to buy some brand new stainless bolts for the fairings, so there's a kit for that for £20, and that's only because although I've recoated them, they're not all there because some of them were shearing as they were coming out, and they're not great condition because they were quite heavily corroded, so I just want to make sure that's in. So there you have it. That is the bike as is now, and some additional cost. What would it cost to have put the bike back on the road in its condition as I purchased it? So that's to say, what would have been the service costs for all of the serviceable items that needed replacing, and then to address some of the missing points, and that is well nuts, disc bolts, brake discs, clutch plates, the throttle cable, air filter, some of the little missing lamps, the chain kit, the shims to bring it back in spec, the head bearing because it was going, belt kit, the suspension bushes and seals, the missing rear indicator, the front indicator, the missing mirror. I've put the manual down because you'd probably want that as a service support, the oil, antifreeze, the fork oil, brake fluid, the oil filter, and then the original bike cost. So if I'd have wanted to do this on a budget, let's say I just wanted to buy the bike, get it back on the road, use it for a period, and then get shot of it, that all in would have cost £2,061.16. Looking at what is out in the marketplace, that would probably be fair market value for a Ducati ST2 with its panniers. The only bit is this has got some cosmetic damage to the fairings, so you'd probably want to replace the cracked fairing. You can pick those up second hand for about between £50 to £100. I have seen some new old stock ones kicking around for £300, but that's overkill based on what I'm talking about, just to get it back on the road. And then on top of that element of the cost debate, there were some items that were bulk costs for me because I work on loads of Ducatis, so, and there was bits that I've purchased that were one-off costs. So that's well nuts, clamps, exhaust studs, exhaust nuts, the free bond, and then technically the plating kit. And that lot would have cost me separately £415.98. So if you'd have stripped that out of the total bill cost of the bike, we're talking a 4K bike as it stands at the moment. So that's where I am with costs. I hope that's answered the questions for those of you that have been wondering what I've been spending on the bike. It's been going on through most of the course of this year, so there's never been any real big cost that's really hurt me going out in one go, other than I suppose the powder coating at £400 in one hit, and the clutch. That they feel a little bit as an uncomfortable spend, I suppose, in a month, depending on how much you're earning. So they're the two big hits. The rest of them I think were pretty acceptable costs, because you're only spending sort of between 20 to sort of £100 on some of the slightly larger items as you go. So that's the project to date. Let me talk about what's coming up for the channel. So this is the second piece that I wanted to cover off. So this is currently up on the bench. It will be going away once the lockdown is done, so I can store it in my unit and await the fairings to be fitted. So I've got a number of key pieces that I've got coming up. The Ducati 1098S that I usually use for track days, the plan is now to fully service that bike, get it presentable and clean, and I'm going to be selling it. Why is Adam getting rid of a Ducati? So I have got another three projects up in the loft that I just don't have space to be able to do anything with at the moment. So I'd like to make the space so I can get at least one of those built back up. I also have a Ducati Panigale track bike that I have hardly used because I seem to always default to the 1098 because it's a great bike to ride. I really like it. But I want to get out on the Panigale, and I think if I've got rid of the 1098, I will use the Panigale more often. So that's why I'm going to be getting rid of that bike. So for servicing it, I'm going to be doing a lot of the standard stuff up on the bench that people have asked. So I'm going to do a belt change with the engine in the bike, so you can see how that's done on the 1098. I'll do the oil and filter, but I've done that before. There's a track day prep video. I think it was one of my early ones that I've shown you how to change the oil and filter on there, so I probably won't show anybody that. I'll change all the brake fluids, the clutch fluids, so everybody can see that, and then I'll service the clutch, then give the bike a really good clean down just to check that there's no faults or potential failure points anywhere on the bike before I then sell it. So that's one thing I'm going to be doing. We've still got the video on the paintwork on this, and then I'll also do a first ride on it once I've got an MOT. Then the great big Lummoxing Lotus that's been sat in the corner that I have not really used all that much in this year because of the lockdown, but I didn't use it very much last year. It's because the timing belts are due, and I've been looking to get the timing belt lock-in tools so that I can do that myself, primarily because the local Lotus specialist that's near me seems nervous to want to do the timing belts, so I'm going to do that myself. So I'll be taking you through how to change the timing belts on a Lotus V8, which uses the same process basically as a Ducati, which is quite interesting, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I've also got to do an oil change on it, and then I've got an oil leak on the bottom of the engine, so I'm going to drop the sump pan and give that a good clean out, and I'll probably show you up into the bottom end of a flat plane crank V8 engine, and then the intention is to get that serviced by a garage, so I keep the service history up on it, and then there's a couple of modifications I'm going to probably be doing on that in the next year or so. So I'm going to do a centre exit exhaust and bring it up to the new spec grille. Then the big project for next year is the 1299 wrecked bike rebuild that I'm going to be doing. So I've got a crash damaged 1299, sorry, that has got about 600 miles on the clock, cosmetically damaged with a bit of front end damage. So the aim is to get that back on the road and use that as well. And then for some upcoming work for other people, I am going to be building a 748 engine into an 853. So I'll talk you through the process of doing that. I've also got a 996 engine that I might make a stroker for myself, so take it from a 996 into a 1026cc. I've got a damaged 848 engine coming in, so belt snap engine, which looks to have only vertical cylinder damage that I'm going to be rebuilding for somebody. So I'm going to be stripping that engine completely down to check for any associated damage with the belt going and putting that back together. I've also got the 916 engine that I started and stopped because the barrels were out of spec, and that all kicked off at the start of lockdown. The barrels are still in a box just back there to go away. But interestingly, there's some 916 SP stuff that's come up. Now, that is a 916 SP bottom end effectively, because it's got the same con rods and everything in it. So I'm contemplating whether to build that into a 916 SP engine now. And then I've got a brand new Mini Countryman John Cooper Works 4-wheel drive little hot hatch that I might be tuning a bit as well, so there might be a little bit of car content coming, and that's in Ducati red as well. So there's a theme around the colour of my vehicles, I think you'll find. So there's plenty of stuff coming up. Let's just make sure I've not missed anything. Yeah, not missed anything on there. So plenty of content coming up, so hopefully you'll stick with me, and we'll continue to grow the channel, and hopefully you'll enjoy all those videos coming out. And then the last piece is just for to give you an update where I am with the channel as it stands now, because you'll notice that I've turned advertising on. Those of you that are creators on YouTube will know, or have heard probably, that YouTube are looking to switch advertising on for every channel. I wanted to maintain some sort of editorial control over where those adverts sit, so I felt rather than adverts being imposed upon you as my viewing audience, I've taken the decision to switch them on and make sure that they're only on at the start of the video and the end of the video, or they call them end roll adverts, rather than in the mid-roll adverts, so rather than going through the whole of the content. Now, as long as YouTube allow me to keep it that way, that's the way I intend to operate the channel. So that was just a little thing to let you know why the adverts have been switched on the channel. Okay, I think that about wraps it up for this video. Apologies there's no time on the tools in this video, but I haven't got anything to be doing at the moment, and what I'm doing probably doesn't warrant a video, so I put the master cylinder back together and stuck that on the bike and bled that, so that's sorted. And I've drained out the coolant, which is only distilled water, on both the race bikes because it's getting cold in the UK. That's the only thing I've been doing in the last couple of weeks, other than work really. So not much really to give to you guys as content. So hope you enjoyed that video. Hope it was informative. Hope it didn't put you off doing it, the sort of level of work that I've done on my ST2 to your ST, if that's what you're doing at the moment. If you like the video, chuck us a like. Any questions or comments, then stick them down below in the question and comment section. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel, hit that subscribe button and notification bell, because there's plenty more content to be coming. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video. Cheers then.